Welcome to another episode of the Nintendo Powercast. I'm your host, N64 Josh, and I've got a very special guest today, Sunbro. What's going on?
What's going on, Josh? Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here and talk to you. Just liked the intro splash screen right there because it brought back some immediate nostalgia for my Nintendo Power collection that I started off with back in the day. So, yeah,
I love
that logo.
Yeah, well, it was around this time 7 years ago that Nintendo announced that they were going to do the Nintendo Power podcast.
That's right.
And I had been going since February and got all of their SEO juice, and it skyrocketed this show in front of many people. Yes.
That's great. That's
yes.
great, man.
So we're about a month. I think their show started on December 15th, and I remember looking and I was like, I'm getting sued. I know I'm getting sued.
Right. Yeah, I was just waiting for that email to come through. Cease and desist.
Yeah. When are the ninjas going to show up and take me out? So, well, before we jump into this, you guys, I want to let everybody know that Elgato is going to be having a massive sale. You guys know that I am an Elgato ambassador. My code will not work. You cannot double up on this sale coming up for Black Friday. I don't have all the details yet, but I am letting you guys know ahead of time. Make sure to stay tuned to n64josh.com/Elgato because they are going to be, I know a handful of the things. I just don't know all of the details yet. So next episode, I'll give you those for sure. But I wanted to make sure that if you guys are in the market for any kind of streaming gear, and I will say this, they just sent me the teleprompter. And so I'm going to have some videos coming out about that thing as well, because I'm very, very excited to go hands-on with it. But again, n64josh.com/Elgato for some great deals for Black Friday. Other than that, we are just going to start talking Nintendo. Sunbro, we met through, I think, Nintendo Prime. We both ended up on an episode. I'm going to be honest, I don't watch a lot of content creators, but when I'm at the gym on the treadmill, I usually will fire up one of your videos, mostly just for inspiration because I've been putting a lot more effort onto the YouTube side of things. And so you've been putting out some killer content. I know the Switch 2 conversations gotta be like, you're just like, I go through your comments sometimes and I just laugh and I'm just like, oh my God, like these people could just scroll past, but I get you're just killing it. You're absolutely killing it right now. And so I just want to talk a little bit about your channel, of course, and then some of your history with Nintendo. But let's talk about the Sunbro Nation and what you got going on with YouTube.
Yeah, for sure, man. So yeah, I've been at YouTube about 4.5 years total, 4 years with kind of this Nintendo direction. But man, just growing up, I'm 31 myself, so I grew up like right in that prime age of watching YouTube become what it is, and I just always loved gaming videos, and that's how I started. I realized that I myself was staying informed by these gaming videos, and then that kind of spiraled into, it was right around the launch of the PS5. I started messing around with doing some stock tracking videos for that, funnily enough. But then I realized that as I wanted to continue to create content past that PS5 launch window, like Nintendo has always been the console brand for me that I've always, that's always been my go-to. Like I have friends that play PlayStation, Xbox. I play it all myself, but when you talk about a company that I just look forward to their first party releases like none other, I mean, Zelda, Metroid, Mario, like that, those three, anything comes out from either any of those franchises or any spin-offs even, I mean, it is just like, I know I'm going to have a great time and it's zero question about it. And so it became pretty clear to me in YouTube early on that I was like, Nintendo's got to be the focus because that's just what I can talk about at length. To your point with all the Switch 2 stuff, I'm ready for a freaking official reveal trailer, obviously, but I'm not done or tired of the topic because it's so exciting about Nintendo and what they're going to do with their next gen hardware. You know, we got some cool tidbits of information I'm sure we can jump into at some point. Backwards compatibility is a thing. Like that's huge because you think about the Switch library that's here now and like the library of games. So anyway, if you can't tell, like I just love Nintendo, been a lifelong fan, started off go into a little bit of history, gaming wise and stuff. This just all kind of ties into why I talk about Nintendo daily on the channel. But when I was like 6 or 7, we got a Christmas present from my grandmother that she gave my mom and dad enough money for us to go to Best Buy and buy a Super Nintendo. And we got Super Nintendo and Super Mario Bros. All-Stars, or Super Mario All-Stars. Just absolute, that kicked me off to the journey. Didn't even know what I was getting into. Super Mario World, still one of my favorite 3D or 2D platformers to this day. Then that turned into like Donkey Kong Country 1 and 2 also, and the Mega Man X games. I mean, that's where I started. That was like my roots. And then I stumbled into a little game called Ocarina of Time in the N64 era, playing it on at a friend's house. Saw Link riding around on an open world Hyrule on a horse, and then that's what cemented me as like, okay, gaming's going to be a part of my life forever. I probably replayed Ocarina of Time, upwards of 40 times as a kid. So it's just one of those that I fell in love, and then it just turned into, the GameCube came out. Wind Waker was one of my all-time favorite Zelda games that I replayed over and over. Twilight Princess I had reserved for so long from GameStop that the ink had worn off the receipt, because I already went there and paid for it, and they kept delaying it. And then they had that thing where it was going to come out on the Wii and the GameCube simultaneously, so that kicked it back another year. And I remember trying to load up trailers on dial-up internet that I would wait, legitimately a 3-minute trailer. I would do stuff for 2 hours around the house waiting, and it's like halfway done, and I couldn't even get through the whole 3-minute trailer. So anyway, yeah, all of that just stemmed into, lifelong love for Nintendo, turned into, watching videos online, staying informed from other content creators. And I'm a talker myself, and I'm just like, you know what, I want to get into this stuff firsthand, and it's not full time for me just yet. I hope it becomes that one day. I still work a regular 9 to 5, through the week and everything. So, but it's on the path where it can become that. And regardless of if it does become my main income or not, it's something I love to my core. So I'm going to continue to do it for however long. And if people are tired of Switch 2 topic, you can just move along until, Nintendo says something, and then you can come back and we'll have more to talk about. But yeah, it's going good. So love it.
I love hearing that, and we are going to get into like the backwards compatibility, and I'm taking a little different approach with the Switch 2. Instead of like focusing on the leaks and things like that, like some of the videos I have in the works are like, and we're gonna hit them as some of our topics today as well. But like, what does that backwards compatibility mean? Like, what does it mean for the future of Nintendo? And it's one of our, how are they going to handle the next 2 years? And I've got theories on it, and so, but we are going to talk about some of the leaks since you're here, because I know you've got all the inside information there. I want to touch particularly on, like, just real quick, what games are you playing right now?
Yeah, so currently Sonic X Shadow Generations I just picked up for the Switch. Super Mario Party Jamboree I've been playing with my fiance. That game's a ton of fun. Had some friends over yesterday and played through we've played every board at least once now. No, not the remake boards, but just fun. I mean, I was very picky about Super Mario Party on the Switch, and so whenever it was going to go back to some of the Joy-Con controller stuff with Jamboree, I was a little bit nervous, because Superstars up to this point in time has been my go-to on the Switch. Like, I like the button controls more, but happy to say I am legitimately enjoying all the mini games, all the boards, the Jamboree buddy system. Everything is top notch in my opinion on this Mario Party game. So I've been having a ton of fun with that. And then just, non-Nintendo, I've actually been playing Demon Souls Remake again on PS5, just because I'm such a Souls fan of that. That's like the only non-Nintendo franchise that I can boot up any of those games and just like completely, start to finish, just enjoy my run through. So I decided to start replaying that, and I'm about halfway through at this point in time. I need to pick up Brothership. I have not gotten that yet. So that's on my list. But yeah, that's kind of the revolving cycle. I beat Zelda Echoes of Wisdom about a month ago now, maybe 3 weeks ago. Top tier Zelda game for me, man. I just have so much faith and trust in the Zelda team that, like, it's always going to be a 10 out of 10 experience. There's some performance issues. That's a valid criticism. But outside of that, that game, story-wise, gameplay mechanic-wise, the dungeons are top-notch in my opinion, and the bosses.
Oh, yes.
Playing it so different than as you play as Link. With Princess Zelda as the main protagonist, it was worrying at first, and then once you get into that echoes mechanic and you find your go-to echoes, I just, that through and through 10 out of 10. So that's kind of what I've been up to lately on the gaming side.
I love it. I love it. I just started. Nintendo sent me a copy of Brothership, and I've been dragging my feet. I finally started it, and I have the first half hour uploaded with no commentary. Like, I don't have it. It's uploaded, but I haven't SEO'd it or hit publish yet. So
Nice.
it's there, which I think has just. Again, I've only done the first 30 minutes, which is a lot of tutorial stuff, but I see the charm. It's given those same, Super Mario RPG, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. Like it's got all the charm there. So I'm really looking forward to it. I have been playing. I just completed Samus Returns on my
Nice
2DS XL. Like
Okay.
I've been on a major, and then I restarted Dread, and I don't know whether I should keep go. But every time I'm like, I should stop in Dread and go back to Fusion, I just keep going in Dread because I'm like, I played that game so fast that I don't even remember. Like, I don't even remember so much of it. Like, I keep
Such a
getting stuck,
masterpiece. Yeah.
and not to the point that I need to look anything up, but I'm just like, I gotta explore, like, and I'm just absolutely loving it. But yeah, trying to balance everything. I've also jumped back into Prime Remastered because I'm like, I want to finish this. I haven't beat it since it first came out on GameCube, so I want to jump back into that as well. All that to say, for those of you that are listening, you're gonna hear the audio version very soon, but the video is up on YouTube now. I've launched a brand new project called Metroid Dark Reckoning. And what it is I am writing from the ground up basically a Metroid fanfic, if you will. And then doing audio with sound effects and all this stuff and having just a great time with it. And I'm trying my best to like make it true to all of the lore, the best I can. Like, some of the research I've done, I'm like, does the gravity suit work as gravity boots? Can it pull her down if she's, but I couldn't find anything. So I had to change the way I wrote the way I was like, well, that's not really going to work. So, but I'm having just a really, really good time with it. I can't wait for you guys to hear it. The only reason I say go check it out on YouTube is because I'm so proud of the intro. It's just a bunch of cuts from like sizzle reel from all the games, but the way it moves with the music and everything for the opening of this thing, just go check it out. I think you will enjoy it. So with that, I want to get into some. You mentioned Metroid as like a series that you'll always go to.
Yeah.
So and I believe you said the first system was the SNES, right? That was what
That's
you were.
right.
Yeah. So did Super Metroid get you back in the day?
No, surprisingly enough, that was I fell in love with that game way later on. So GameCube and Prime 1 was my first, exposure to the series. And so 3D, I didn't realize like how great that same puzzle exploration, go down a certain path. There's a locked door. You don't have the right thing to get back to get by that yet. So you're going to go all these other directions, but you need to remember that locked door is still there. I didn't realize how much I was going to fall in love with that formula. And so it was actually really cool because I grew up playing Smash Bros my whole life. And that was probably my first exposure to Metroid in general, just because of Samus being a playable character, and loved that character. But when it was like, I want to say, man, it was probably $5 at Game Exchange. I don't know if Metroid Prime, they had a ton of copies, but I guess it didn't. I mean, it is the best selling Metroid game in history, but for whatever reason, a local Game Exchange, which is just like a GameStop for, that you buy, sell, trade type stuff. They were sitting on a stack of those copies back in the day, and it was $5. And so it was just one of those like, hey, that's Samus's game. Let's pick this up and see what it's all about. And you might remember they have some integration because on Metroid Prime, if you have the Game Boy Advance, and it was around the time that Fusion was coming out, there was some promotional stuff, a different suit you could get if you linked them together and all of that. I had the Game Boy player on my GameCube, which is what actually because so back up a little bit. I love Nintendo. I never played most of their handheld systems. I have them, but I've always been that I want the TV to be like essentially fill up my field of vision. And so the Game Boy player allowed me to go through all the 2D Zeldas from back in the day that released on the Game Boy and all the Metroid games. So from Prime 1, I realized I was going to fall in love with that franchise and absolutely was just a mega fan. And then I played Zero Mission next, which is the remake of Metroid 1 from the Game Boy Advance. And that started the whole 2D aspect of me being a Metroid fan. And then so I progressed through and went through every other playable, Metroid game up to that point in time, which was Fusion. And then, of course, Dread was a day one pickup for me. Went through and 100%ed that and just, had a blast all the way. And I purposely started through the Metroid 1 through 4 story arc leading through that until Dread came out. And so, it's just the remake, Samus Returns remake, excellent on 3DS. I wish that would be one of the hand-picked ports that Nintendo throws over to Switch one day, because I think with the HD upres, it absolutely would be flawless and easy to run. Easy pick for Nintendo Switch. But yeah, man, just, Metroid has been one of those lifelong staple franchises ever since Prime, and then just went back through and played everything else after I got exposed to the series through Prime. So
I was actually doing a little retro game hunting today because I wanted to try to find Metroid Pinball on DS.
Nice. Yeah, that's great, man.
And I struck out, unfortunately, but because the lady working the counter was like, well, you can check the cheap bin. And I'm like, I doubt it. And I looked it up real quick. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not on the...
It's not a cheap bin game.
That's not a cheap bin game. And it actually works with the Rumble that came with the DS, the little Rumble pack that was with
No way. Yeah, that's great.
With the DS. So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And they had the Prime Trilogy Steelbook, which I thought was pretty
that's great.
Pretty rad, pretty cool to see. And then they had a few copies of Corruption as well. But I'm on a Metroid kick right now. Like,
great time to be. It ties into the speculation, but I really think, I know we're going to get to what Nintendo can do in the upcoming years for their games and stuff. I think that Prime 2 and 3 are still coming. I really do. Jeff Grubb is a very reliable source on Prime 1 remastered being a thing, and his understanding and what he had heard is that Prime 1 was getting more of a big boy remaster, quote unquote, a little bit more attention to detail, but that 2 and 3 would be coming over as well. And so the way I personally think Nintendo's going to do it is Pikmin 1 and 2 style, where they largely look like their GameCube and Wii counterparts, but up-res to HD widescreen support, which it's already, I guess, has widescreen support in the settings. But, basic quality of life enhancements, and also the control systems, I think, will come over from Prime Remastered. But I think they're going to drop as just like a shadow drop combo pack, like maybe at the next Nintendo Direct in February. I don't think Nintendo goes and releases a game that has a 4 in the title with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond without giving us 2 and 3 playable. So I hope we see it early next year, man. We'll have to find out for sure, but it's a good time to play Metroid for sure.
I am right there with you but I will say I do hope it gets the treatment that I hope so the reason we're not seeing it is because they saw how well it did and they're like, yo, pump the brakes a little bit. Let's show this some love, because it looks astonishing. Like
it's one of the best looking Switch games, I think, hands down, which makes me feel that much better about Prime 4 being, I know it's going to be a late life cycle Switch title, but I think we're really going to be blown away. I think if you look at how great Prime Remastered looks, and then you look at the trailer that they dropped from Prime 4 looks more impressive than Prime Remastered, and Prime Remastered, as we said, is already a top tier visual fidelity Switch game. So yeah, I think they're going to squeeze every last drop of juice out of what the Switch can do with that Tegra X1. So
it's exciting. I do want to know, before we jump into the topics, I just want to know what's, like, you mentioned Metroid, Zelda, and I think one other
Mario.
Was it Mario? Yeah, and you've got a pretty good, like, you talked about World being one of your favorites. Like, any other standout titles for you, or just like that were real important along the way?
Well, Donkey Kong also, and
That's
I
right.
am
Yeah.
excited for Country Remake. In Mega Man back in the day, I don't play as many as like the modern Mega Man games, which they don't have now. To be fair, I guess Mega Man 11 was the last one, and that's been out for quite a while now. But anyway, yeah, the Donkey Kong, so like platforming franchises are just like still so much fun for me, I just like to this day I can boot up Donkey Kong Country 2 at any given time and just have a blast going through it. It is outrageously hard, but yeah, especially once you get towards the end game. But I love that, and one of the best soundtracks. I've already blasted it on Nintendo Music, the app that they
Nice. Yeah.
released. I mean, just it's the soundtrack, the nostalgia for everything. That's another staple franchise. And besides, I mean, Smash Bros has been a pretty big part of like me and my friend group as we've just all grown up together. Like we still, when people come over, Smash Bros is a staple must play. And so that's another franchise that of course mixes everything together from Nintendo. But yeah, man. And then to say on the Mario thing, Mario World was probably my favorite 2D platformer in the Mario franchise up until Wonder came out, and they're like so
Yep.
good. I mean, 100%ing that and the special world and the difficulty behind it and how much fun that was. 30 hours of just pure enjoyment for me. So I mean, yeah, Nintendo's been doing some really good stuff with all of their classic franchises lately.
Any other titles that you're into, like Fire Emblem or Xenoblade? Any of the RPGs?
F-Zero. So, I'm not so much on a turn-based RPG guy, other than Paper Mario, Thousand Year Door, absolutely enjoyed. And but yeah, not a ton of the turn-based games, but F-Zero is a big racing one that I want to see come back. Like if GX even just got a port to Switch, that would be a huge win for me. I've enjoyed my time with Star Fox over the years as well. So all the way from the N64 to that 3DS remake. I actually I own it on my 3DS, but I also played it on my PC via emulation, which was really enjoyable. That's a good version of Star Fox 64. And that's a franchise I hope Nintendo does something with. But yeah, man, those core staple first party Nintendo ones. I mean, I've played them all, and really, there's not many that I dislike or that I don't gravitate towards. But Xenoblade and Fire Emblem are two franchises that I would love to play through in their entirety. I just have not gotten around to it at this point in time.
Well, as somebody who was not into JRPGs whatsoever, or really other than like I've done Skyrim, like obviously not JRPG, but like I've done some Western RPGs with Elder Scrolls, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 pulled me in. The only other JRPG up until that point was Pokemon Yellow.
Okay.
And
yeah,
so
nice.
that's it. I could not
say
stop.
Pokemon too. Yeah, the Pokemon I'm all that whole franchise is incredible to me. But funnily enough, I've played Pokemon more on the Switch than I ever did
Same here.
growing up. Yeah, because again, like the handheld thing, it was just like I wouldn't put hours and hours, and I didn't get them on for my Game Boy player back in the day, and I skipped really all the DS entries. So when Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee came out on Switch, I put 150 solid hours into that, shiny hunted everything, just enjoyed it super thoroughly. And then as they've continued to release Legends to this day, Legends Arceus, I'm so happy we're getting Legends ZA next year. That is my favorite Pokemon gameplay mechanic set, period. Hands down. The dodge roll mechanic, the fact that Pokemon can damage you in the overworld, you can sneak around and throw multiple Pokeballs seamlessly, no battle transition, it's just seamless the way they do it. I mean, the Pokemon has been elevated to a new level in my mind in the Switch era in particular. So yeah, Xenoblade though is when Chronicles X comes out. I don't know if you have a stance on this or a recommendation, but I'm thinking about starting there and then just trying to go through the whole series afterwards. I don't know if you've played Xenoblade Chronicles X.
I haven't, and I remember people even telling me because I started on 2.
Okay.
I didn't even play. I had one I have it on the Wii and on the 3DS, but never. I'm like, this isn't my kind of game. I've since tried to play it on the Switch, and it has not pulled me in the way 2 has. I've played a 3 for probably about the same as I've played 1, give or take. Like 3 a lot. It's just the timing didn't work out to spend much more time with it, and I want to jump back into it. So I have X, but I didn't play it on the Wii U. Like I bought it,
Gotcha.
but never played it. So from my understanding with X is it doesn't get fun until like 10 to 15, not necessarily not that it's not fun, but it gets real fun like 10 to 15 hours into the story.
Nice.
And so just something to keep in mind. I personally, from somebody who's not a JRPG, I would say start with 2. If you need to like because I'll be able to finish 1 since if I had started at 1, I would have been like, I'm good. This is why I don't care for these kind of games. And I think with 1, I just got to get over this little hump. I'm just at a point where I'm like, a lot of times I will grind in those games just so that I'm so leveled up that when I get to stuff, I don't have to worry about it. But then I don't pay attention all that well. Like when it comes to reading stuff, sometimes I'm spamming the A button and
man, I'm terrible at that. My friends make fun of me all the time. I can play through a story heavy game and not know what's going on easily. Like I get like the big moments, but like all the in between that they explain to you, I'm just like ready for the gameplay. I don't know. It's just kind of how I am, but
yeah, well, I missed on one of the biggest gameplay elements of 2, which is like where you essentially create orbs and then you move those into like a super move. Yeah, I was probably 3/4 of the way through the game. I had just been grinding so much and leveling up that I didn't need to do it until I hit a certain boss. And literally my chat was laughing at me. Everybody was like, what do you mean you don't know? You don't know. Like,
right, about the orb
what are you
system
talking
at this
and
point.
I was like, so yeah. So anyway, it highly recommend. But well, this is going to be really exciting because we're first up we're going to talk about Switch 2 leaks, but then we're going to talk about how does Nintendo handle the next 2 years. So let's go ahead and jump into our first topic here. Okay, so when are we hearing about and getting the Switch 2?
Well, the safe answer is no later than March 31st, 2025, because that's what Furukawa said himself. I am baffled with you. To be honest with you, Josh, I would have completely bet solid money that the reveal was happening this year. And I know there was a lot of people that said holiday sales, they don't want to mess it up. Even Furukawa at the most recent investors briefing said that's not their mindset. Like they don't think the people that are buying Switch when it's almost 8 years old are really going to be like knowing about a next gen console, which they themselves have already confirmed is in development. It's not going to deter this market that much and really have a negative impact on their sales during the holidays. So that's literally what Furukawa said. And I agree with that mindset too. So my mindset was they tweeted about this thing being revealed within the fiscal year on May 7th, 2024. Why did they do that so early if they weren't going to wait all the way until the next calendar year? Like say we're going to do it at the beginning of 2025 if that's what you're going to do. But they said within this fiscal year back in May, and we've just been waiting this whole time. So interesting decision from Nintendo. I don't know what their mindset is around it. I think they just, if I was betting, I do think there's a part of them that are watching the momentum of the current Switch, and they're just trying to figure out when's the most opportune time to reveal our successor platform. All of that to say, now this ties into leaks here recently, and not really leaks, but actually an official statement from Nintendo. I guess it has been pointed out to me it's in Taiwan. I thought it was in China. There is a gaming event going on that they recently posted an article about, and at the bottom of it, they said there will be no reveal or mention of the Switch successor. That gaming presentation or convention, I guess it's called, is at the end of January, the 26th through the 29th. They're already saying that there will be no mention there. Now, there was some speculation online that if it was tied to China, which it's not, it's Taiwan, which I still don't know if they get consoles day and date, but there was some speculation that maybe this doesn't mean very much because, in the Chinese market, everything comes out significantly later for Nintendo, essentially. So maybe it would be revealed other places of the world, and this announcement is, not that telling. However, considering that it is taking place in Taiwan, I actually think that them saying that there's no reveal or mention of the Switch successor, I think that we're waiting till past January to learn about this console. And I think that, that February timeframe where we normally start to see the rumors of the next direct ramp up might be the time. Nintendo has continued to say at every direct presentation that there will be no mention of the Switch successor, even if it's like a theme park direct, or they'll just say there's no game information or whatever the blanket statement is. But maybe we get the announcement of a direct and that disclaimer is not at the bottom of it. I don't think Nintendo reveals their console at a direct, but I could see it being around that time frame. And there are some rumors from PH Brazil, who had a lot of stuff right this year in directs, but he was off on the reveal timing, that he's hearing that we could maybe be looking at another partner showcase or something very small from a first party perspective for Nintendo's next direct. And it would be in February. And if they don't have a lot of first party stuff ready to go by next February, and they're not talking about Switch 2 games, then that probably means we're learning about the console later than that. So would they reveal it in the launch month that they did the console? That's possible. I mean, I'm between February and March in my head at this point as far as when we get that first look trailer. I hope it's before February though, because if it is, I think that direct can become the first Switch 2 direct where we learn about the new 3D Mario as the show closer. We learn about some of these big games that are going to launch around it. But I don't know that that's the case or not, and so I'm very like in the mindset of, obviously we're getting the console launched in 2025, but is it a first half of 2025 console, or is it potentially saved for that fall holiday season next year, which I hope is not the case, but we shall see. So it's been an interesting one. I'm sure being in the Nintendo news cycle or keeping up with it at all, just how weird Nintendo's playbook is right now. So
it's so strange. In my mind, I saw it playing out with I've never thought that it would harm holiday sales.
Right.
Like, they wouldn't have mentioned the system at all if they were worried about that, in my opinion. Like, there would be no, like, why even, and again, investors and the hardcore are really the only people that really care about this or know much about it, right? Like, it's not, but they're telling more people when they put out these posts that say, and no, like, it's like, so they're keeping us warm.
Mm-hmm.
They're keeping us warm more than being like, oh no, it's not gonna, like, no. And again, I'm staring at a Zelda Switch Lite right now, because they got me that. Knowing the Switch 2's coming out doesn't mean that I have the Hylian Shield, I have the Zelda Wedge, like those. I'm still gonna buy them. I didn't need them. It's just for the collection, and so that doesn't really change anything. And then what I honestly thought they would do is Player's Choice be announced like Black Friday. Mm-hmm. And just like come out of the gate swinging, just like basically the Black Friday sales, but the prices stay here. Or maybe that, although thinking about it from a marketing perspective, it'd probably be best if they did the Player's Choice right after, at this point now. That launches. That was prior to, like, if the Switch 2 was really going to be announced, okay, get the Player's Choice out there, so that the sales are still happening. But I put out a video on this. I think Mario Kart is a big reason that things keep getting, the brakes keep getting pumped. Mm-hmm. It's top 10.
Yeah.
Still week after week, and like
10-year-old game, mind you, at this point. Yeah.
I'm holding a Lego toy right now, right?
Is that from the new McDonald's Happy Meals that they're
Yeah, I have all of them but one, and all of the marketing on these is not just Mario Kart. It's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe specific. Mm-hmm. So that had to have been planned for a while. Right. 2 consoles with Mario Kart in it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like and then we have a Lego set come January.
Yep.
With Mario Kart as well. So they're also keeping us very, very warmed up for Mario Kart. And I think this was their biggest push, because those Mario Kart deals are also like a year of Nintendo Switch Online.
That's
Or
right.
something like it.
They
So
are,
like
yeah, full year.
it's a good deal. I've
Right.
had some people asking me. I think Costco is honestly the best place if you have a membership. Somebody was asking me in chat yesterday about like where I'm pretty sure Costco is your best bet for that bundle if you're in the market. And but again, that conversation was, hey, my nephew lives with me. I want to get him a Switch. He's swiping through on TikTok, sees my live stream, and then is going to buy his nephew. So there's still plenty of people out there that don't own Switches. So
Right.
like, and I mean, even look at the commercials they've done recently. I don't know if you've seen some of them, but like, it's got Mario Wonder, it's got Animal Crossing, it's got Mario Kart, and it might have echoes of Wisdom, but like, I think it had Mario Party. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
they're promoting stuff that's older. With Animal Crossing, much older. With Mario Kart, much older, because they know there's stuff going. There's still sales to be had there. Sure. And do you think that there's a lot? Do you think a lot of this has to do with like supply chain or anything along those lines, or do you think this is all very intentional? And the only reason I kind of asked this, I'll kind of little caveat, like we know from some data mining that like there's 4K stuff in some of these current games as well. And like even like Peach coming out this year, but kind of running like garbage. I kind of wondered, I'm like, was that supposed to be kind of a both console title kind of thing, you know, but they still just went forward with it?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's supply chain, but I do know that Nintendo themselves have said that the way they're planning on combating scalping this time around is just to produce as many units as they possibly can to try to meet market demand at launch. And I do think that's a real part of their strategy. I don't think that they want this like FOMO that sometimes we see Apple do, like where they actually like produce less devices than is going to meet market demand because it makes everybody rush out and I got to get it day one, pre-order, all of this. I actually think Nintendo is going to stockpile these things for a while and just literally launch with an insane amount of stock. But I do wonder too, I think that I do subscribe to the idea that once upon a time, there was a plan for Nintendo to launch the console this holiday season in 2024. I know that seems weird the further out we wait for this announcement, because it seems like, well, if it was 6 months delayed, they were going to do it in March, we would learn about it by now. But since we haven't, it seems like that's not the case. But I think Nintendo is in this we're comfortable with our business and where it's at right now. Even if we have multiple years that are like bad from a revenue perspective, we have cash in the bank. We have movies in development. We have theme parks opening. We have more revenue streams that are vastly successful than we've ever had before as a brand. We're worried about the long term. And so I don't think they're rushing the market, because there is still life in this generation, as crazy as it sounds to say it. And I'm on board with the idea that some of these games we're seeing were going to be a both system game, especially now that we know backwards compatibility is a thing. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, maybe even Mario and Luigi Brothership, but I can't remember for sure. They have colored buttons, and there's a lot of third-party games that have had colored buttons as well. You might just say that that's just kind of tying back to the Super Famicom era, and they're just making that reference. But do you remember the new 3DS? One way they differentiated the console, because Nintendo likes to make things simple on the mind. Oh, the one with the colored buttons is the new one. Well, this is going to be a bigger Switch, but it's going to largely be an iteration on what the Switch is, right? I think that they do colored buttons on this new one, and I think developers have known that for a while, and that's why a number of third-party titles and first-party Nintendo titles have colored buttons in them right now. So yeah, it's funny, if you go back to the Giga Leak, there was once a plan for Nintendo to launch their original Switch in 2016 holiday season instead of March 2017. They chose to delay that console. Nintendo is okay with just doing delays and never letting us, the fans, know what actually went on behind the scenes. And I think that's what we're looking at here. I think that if the Switch had less momentum, if Mario Kart 8 Deluxe wasn't at 63 million copies and still going strong, if Animal Crossing wasn't at 46 million and still going strong, like if there was just true momentum drop off of a cliff, I think we would have had this console by now. But I think in Nintendo's mind, we have enough life left in this current platform. We can give the developers extra time to completely polish and finish their games for the launch lineup of their next console. Let's just sit on this and act cool for a while. And I think that's what we're seeing them do.
And they've got so much going on, right? Like, if the Switch 2 had been announced, do you think the museum would have had as much press time?
Yeah. Yeah, Nintendo chose this window to announce everything else except for their next gen hardware. I mean, I nowhere on my bingo card for 2024 would I have put a Nintendo alarm clock reveal, but they did,
right.
And a Nintendo Music app that requires Nintendo Switch Online to log into, like crazy stuff that we're just seeing them like, well, let's launch this. They're doing all of that because of the position they're in and how successful they are with the Switch. And so that's why, as much as we want the new hardware, they're going to give it to us when they're ready,
Yeah, no question. No question. Well, let's jump over into topic number 2. And how does Nintendo handle the next 2 years? Okay, well, you have said some things on this episode about the way you game and how like handheld has not always been a high priority for you because you prefer to play on the TV.
Yep.
I just finished Metroid Samus Returns on the, like, I've literally fired up my 2DS is actually charging right now because I'm thinking about possibly going into Federation Force or maybe the Ocarina or Majora's Mask, which I've never played Majora's Mask before, so I may end up doing that.
Nice.
But I bring that up because Samus Returns, like you said at the beginning of the show, deserves to be on the Switch, right? Yep. And that game got me thinking about, like, even just knowing some sales numbers, like off the top of my head, like the Mario Golf on 3DS, it barely broke, or I don't even know if it broke 500,000 sales.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, but it's probably one of the best, if not the best Mario Golf that they've ever made. Like even better than Super Rush. It had, Callaway was tied to it. You could dress your character with like N64 hats and Super Nintendo hats. And like, it was way more content. And it had asynchronous tournaments where you could literally, I could have a community, like the NPC had a tournament where every week you could play whenever you wanted to, but everybody's scores were tracked. And it was it was great for community. Right.
Yeah.
And so it got me thinking, like, what does the Switch do? And so before I go into what I think it's going to do, I want to hear from you. What do you think Nintendo does the next 2 years with the, because like you mentioned, they said they're going to go about this launch different from anything that we've seen, and so it's got my wheels turning. But I'm just curious what you think and what do you think they're doing over the next 2 years?
Yeah, so it's going to be very different than how most companies handle their next generation launches, but it will be, in my opinion, less Nintendo than we've seen in the past, because I always bring it back to Jim Ryan from PlayStation, but he was very, he did the sales guy thing of, we believe in console generations, all these games are only possible with the power of the PS5, and said all of that stuff. And Sony continued to release almost all of their first party content on both platforms for like 4 years, like maybe 3, before we really started to see that drop off. Nintendo's not going to do that, but because the 3D Mario is going to be exclusive to the next gen console, the next big Zelda, whatever it is going to be exclusive to the next gen console. But they are in a different position with 143 million, probably soon to be over the holiday season, up to, knocking on to that 146, 147 million units sold number. They're going to be in a position where they're very well aware that they cannot stop supporting the current Switch with software. So I think that looks like, as many ports and remasters we've already seen, I think it looks like more of those and some simple spin-off titles that are going to be from the ground up. Princess Peach Showtime being an example. Pick a franchise, give the character a chance with a new game. It's a more simple project. We're going to put stuff like that out on Switch 1, and those early adopters who got Switch 2, you can pick up that same piece of software, and it's probably just going to be a better experience for you with more powerful hardware via backwards compatibility. So I do think we're going to see that over the next couple of years, really, still let's say Nintendo does a new piece of software first party once per calendar month. That's loosely what they've stuck to in the Switch's generation. I still think that they're going to maybe have 5 of those 12-month calendar games. Let's say 12 for the year. 5 of them are probably still going to be supported for Switch 1. But the big generational leaps, the next Mario, the next Smash Bros, the next Animal Crossing, the next Mario Kart 8, or the next Mario Kart, it will be 9 or X or 10, whatever it's going to be called. Then those games will be console exclusive to the new console, in my opinion. You know, their next gen hardware. But yeah, it's going to look different because normally we see Nintendo just literally maybe release one game like a Zelda cross-generational, and then it's up to the third parties to do any kind of support, and literally all their stuff is just out on the new platform. That's typically how we've seen them do it. I think it's going to be different than that this time. So
I think Xbox and PlayStation showed us what not to do.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
This last generation, where it was like, you know, what game can you not play on a PS4 or an Xbox One that came out on the PS5 and the series? There are a handful. Don't get me wrong. Like handful. But that number is minuscule.
Well, think about God of War Ragnarok came out on both consoles. Think about that. You know, a couple years into the PS5.
That's, you know, and I mean, again, Nintendo fans, we know, like, I think the last version of Just Dance on the Wii was like 2019. So
right, yeah,
you know, so
third parties are still going to do their thing. If there's a user base there, we might get Switch content into 2029 if maybe even past that. So we'll see.
But I think one of the things that's interesting is if you, and you've got your finger on the pulse of like the Nintendo fandom, especially online. How many times have you heard that this year's kind of been lackluster? This year's kind of been, you know, like you can tell they're winding down. If you go and look up, like, you know, top 100 games for 2024 on Switch, the amount of third party, and sometimes maybe it's more like you know, single A studios or indies, that kind of stuff. But Capcom has been going hard.
Yes.
The collection we just had, the Ace Attorney, Apollo Justice, like but I do believe that there's things are a little bit more niche, right? There's different pockets. But the Castlevania collection that were DS games, right? That's another one that, like, that was very well received. You got the HD 2D remake of what is it? Dragon Warrior?
Dragon Quest, yeah.
Or Dragon Quest,
3. Mm-hmm. And then you're getting 1 and 2 next year also. So
right. Yeah. So it's like I think, like you said, I think remakes and remasters are going to be the bread and butter. I think Nintendo is showing their hand right now. I think they're showing us current Switch owners may not have anything to worry. There's always that, like, oh, I just bought this console. Well, one, you've got a massive library of Switch games and incredible first-party games, so don't worry. You're not going to be missing out on anything. And two, I think there's going to be such a great number of remakes and remasters that are coming, as well as, like, and when you were talking about like some of the spinoff games, I wonder how think of all the Kirby spinoffs that have happened that are like the free to play, you know, I wonder how those have done.
Yeah. Good point. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I wonder how they've done. Even Mario 35 and something along the, and, you know, F099, that's not going to be, you're not going to need something like that you're not going to need a Switch 2 to play more games like that come to NSO. And so I think we may see a handful of titles that are cross between, and I get so torn on Mario Kart. Mario Kart is the one that I'm like, I hope there be a way that they would do Mario Kart Online free to play.
Okay.
Battle passes. And then do your Grand Prix and everything, make that Switch 2 exclusive. And if you buy the copy, you get like the next 2 battle passes for, included in your purchase or whatever whatever the case is, because that's such a massive install base and such a huge fan base that like
it is.
That's the only one that I'm like, how do they deal with that? Everything else I could see like, and I have another video I'm working on too. I believe that this will be the console of sequels.
Okay.
Because I believe this is just something that's just, again, pure speculation. But I think we're going to see games like Odyssey 2, where I know a lot of people don't necessarily think that, but I think Nintendo wants to sell more Odyssey 1. And if that becomes a player choice that, if it gets up-resed on Switch 2, that's a bonus. If it's $40 and you're a new Switch owner, you're getting a gem of a game. And it's also the familiarity for the consumer. Oh, wait, there's Odyssey 1 and 2. It gets announced and, I want to go play the first one.
Yep.
I just kind of wonder if there's not going to be, and I wonder if Tears and Breath of the Wild didn't kind of show us that a little bit, where it was like pretty similar titles. And again, there's also just the assets are there. But I'm of the mind that like there's a very real possibility. We never saw any DLC for Wonder. So Wonder 2, if it's all reused assets, could be like, this could be a massive year for the 40th anniversary of Mario. But I think there's the opportunity for them to sell more of the OG game if they keep the if they keep 2 in the title of some of these upcoming games. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's an interesting theory, and I actually like it a lot, because considering that backwards compatibility is a confirmed feature from Nintendo themselves, that and the software success that they've had, 1.3 something billion pieces of software sold on the Switch. Yeah, they don't want to lose any of that momentum, and not to mention the fact that that strategy can work. I'm actually in my head jealous of people that maybe, if let's say you decided to sit out the Switch generation. I mean, imagine picking up a Switch 2 and the content library that you have day one. And to your point, if Odyssey 2 comes out and that's what it is, you probably want to play Odyssey 1 first. I don't know that Nintendo will do that with Odyssey specifically. I feel like there's going to be some games that will happen with, and then like the next 3D Mario, I almost wonder if it's just going to be something totally new, and it's actually going to be, I always kind of thought like that Bowser's Fury, it was like an open sandbox test of what Nintendo's going to kind of do with their next 3D Mario, where you can teleport around places, but you're going to be able to technically see the whole world. It's like a Hyrule in a sense, where once you're loaded into that zone, you're able to just go off in any direction you want. That could be an Odyssey 2. It might not though. With the Mario Kart thing you said, that's fascinating to me. I think that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe feels like the closest thing we've ever seen Nintendo do to a games as a service thing. And the reason I say that is because that additional DLC being thrown into NSO, hey, buy our online thing. You can buy the DLC separately, but we're going to double the amount of tracks for this thing over the course of, the next 2 years. And we just saw them release each wave, separately. That felt like an ongoing thing, like we're going to continue to develop and release new tracks. And I don't know that they'll ever go free to play and throw it into NSO. I think they probably should. But I do think that there will be that initial cost to entry. But I could see Nintendo revealing the next Mario Kart with like, here's Mario Kart on Switch 2. It looks better. It has this initial group of stages, but we're going to do waves of DLC for the next 5 years. Like I almost wonder if they're going to have some kind of like long-term content roadmap for the game that's just kind of communicated to us right at the launch of the game,
Almost like Smash.
Almost like Smash, exactly. Where we
right?
know a
like
couple years we're getting
Fighter
new
Pass.
stages. Yep, Fighter Passes. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like I've been so caught up in thinking about like the battle pass because of games like we have a Star Fox battle pass, we have a Kirby battle pass, we have a Metroid battle pass, we have,
That's right.
you know, it just keeps going on, and you just keep building on the franchise that way. But do it very consumer friendly, similar to like what Microsoft has done with Halo, to where it's like you can buy those at any point if you want. You can finish them at any point if you want. There's not that like you're not going to have FOMO and wondering why I can't race as Kirby because I didn't buy the battle pass. I don't want to see anything like that.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
And I it's not that I'm out here like pushing battle passes. I know there's a lot of people that hate that stuff. As a person who has 1,200 hours in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I want continued content because I want to race with the community and have people not get burned out. You know,
Right.
That's
right.
That's kind of where I'm at. One of the things you got me thinking about, if they do the player's choice at 40, they could do digital versions, get 3 games for $100 and still save and still save $20 on 3 games.
That's true.
And so now they're still selling their vouchers, which you know they love because there's not that overhead of the retailer, the plastics, the distribution, all that stuff.
Not to mention the leaks of getting the games out early. Like we see all the retail copies get leaked online. Nintendo hates that stuff, man. The sooner they can get to primarily digital, the sooner the better in their mind, I think. But they also are the platform that will probably do it last because they know their fan base is still the ones that probably buy the most physical media, I would say. But that game voucher program is such a genius thing too, because it also markets and promotes their online service, which they want you to be subscribed to. So it's just, it's a winning formula. I think that for sure rolls forward into next gen, you know.
But I mean, can you imagine, like, even buying, you have a brand new Switch this Christmas, they announced next year you can get 3 of their games for $100.
Yeah.
On a voucher. Who's not gonna?
Right.
Like, well, wait a minute. That was initially $180 worth of games. Now it's $100. Like that's a steal. And I think it would move the numbers for them. So I don't know. We'll just see. But we are just about to that hour mark. This has been super, super fun. Thank you so much. Please shout out all the places where people can connect with you and watch your content.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sunbro Nation on YouTube, that's my bread and butter. If you want to find me, about 6 videos a week on average. Sometimes there's a bonus 7th one in there. But about six different Nintendo Switch related news, leaks, rumors, topical type of videos. You will get the information of whatever's being discussed at kind of the beginning of the video within the first few minutes. And then a lot of the back half or anything else is literally my opinions on what the information is that we're dealing with. Lots of Switch 2 videos lately because, as we've talked about, Nintendo's transitioning to their next-gen hardware. And, it's exciting to figure out or try to figure out what they're going to do. What's the graphics power look like of this thing? What's all the new details around the console look like? So lots of that kind of stuff. But then also, as we get more into the Switch 2 generation and we learn about the games, it's going to be a lot of covering the games as they come out. So if you look back at games that I'm into, like Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, did tons of videos leading into that one's launch. Echoes of Wisdom, in addition to like even Super Mario Party Jamboree, and anything, Thousand Year Door, like all of the first party stuff that we're going to learn about from Nintendo's release roadmap. All of that gets covered in videos as well. I am on other social media platforms. If you ever want to connect with me, kind of where I'll probably actually read some of the responses and interactions. I'm on X mainly. Outside of that, I don't really look at I have a Facebook and Instagram account. Don't look at them too much. I will be trying to get into some short form content in addition to my long form in the year of 2025. So we'll see how stuff like that goes. But yeah, Josh, thanks so much for having me on, man. It's been a great time talking to you and really enjoyed it. So
likewise, man. Thank you so much. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye now.